Hi, this is my Gathering Storm Acolyte of Chayula build guide. I feel inclined to talk about this build because I don't think very many people are using this particular skill, let alone doing guides on it, when I think the skill is actually pretty insane. Okay, I'm just gonna get right into it. So for the first part of this guide, I'm just gonna talk about the most interesting part, which is the bossing or our one-shot combo. To start, I'll go over like the items real fast. For the core staff, you just want a high crit chance, ideally like 14+% crit chance, and then as much damage as you can possibly get. So I have like 6 level melee skills and a ton of fizz damage. You can, this is like an end game. There's probably like 18 diff core staff, but you don't need this much damage really unless you're trying to one-shot Xesht, tier 4 Xesht. Beacon of Aziz. This lets us just not bother doing curses or exposure or pen to get through high resistances. It's just a really nice convenience and very helpful for bossing as well. And then on our second weapon swap, we have Effigy of Cruelty. This does just apply critical weakness, one of the few ways left of doing that. And then the Spear, which is optional, but pretty good for helping our damage. I'll talk a lot more about this spear later. There's a very particular kind of spear you want to have for this build. Okay, so let's look at the basic combo, which is just going to be Frost Wall, Inferno Cry into Gathering Storm. It just looks like this. I place this over the enemy, I press Inferno Cry, and then a Gathering Storm hitting the enemy and the Frost Walls at the same time, doing like millions of damage. So how does that work? To understand the interaction here, we have to first look at Gathering Storm. So let's just look at the video in game.
Hold down the button for Gathering Storm to build up power before dashing through enemies, striking all in your path. Release the storm at the perfect moment to infuse it with lightning and create shockwaves.
So yeah, it's a perfect timing skill. If you hit the perfect timing, you will do an insane amount of attack damage, and that is mostly lightning, and then you will also create shockwaves for each enemy you hit. So what does that kind of look like? So let's say these are like our enemies. If we Gathering Storm, we just dash through all of them. Each of them will create like a shockwave hitting whatever is near them. So if there's a bunch of enemies that look like, that are like positioned kind of like this, and you were to dash through them and hit all of them at the same time, then you're going to create shockwaves that look like this. Because, yeah, you're hitting all of them at once, you make shockwaves, and whoever is standing like right here, for example, he's just like mega dead. If only we can create a formation or hit an enemy hiding behind a formation of other enemies clumped up together in a line like this. Well, we can actually pretty consistently do that. It looks a little bit something like this. Yeah, these are enemies, I guess, so you can hit, if the boss is right here and you just hit the walls like this, he's dead. In terms of numbers, we can hit up to 10 shockwaves. Oops, wrong skill set. We can hit up to 10 shockwaves. So we're not actually doing 700% shockwave damage to the boss. We're doing 7,000% attack damage plus the damage here as well. So yeah, this is like a obscene amount of damage. That's basically the interaction at play here. As for the support gems themselves, it's just more damage, more damage, more damage, more damage, more damage, more damage, rage, which, oh yeah, more damage, more damage. This is handy if you don't kill them right away. You can try again more quickly if you have some CDR on your Infernal Cry. And then Rage, which we said is just more damage, and then Spell Cascade on our Frostwall. These three don't really matter. I have 5 mana for some convenience. Cascade's just nice. This actually doesn't do anything. That's basically like the main interaction at play here for how we're one-shotting bosses. But we can actually do way more damage by using some more interesting tech. Oh, actually, before I talk about that additional tech, there's one thing I must mention regarding the Gathering Storm Frostwall interaction. It's very important that you get as much AoE as you can for your Gathering Storm. Because if not, your shockwaves are not going to overlap as much. They're just going to be too small. So something like Honk Effect sounds like it's more damage, but in reality it's fake more damage. It's actually less damage because you're not going to get as much of a shotgun. In fact, in the tree, I grabbed a I grabbed it from nothing that lets me allocate this area, nodes from this area of the tree, just to get more AoE. And I also have like this Megalomaniac, which also gives me more AoE, so that my overlapping shockwaves are more consistent. Additionally, you do not want to run Fortress on your frost walls. It looks like a tighter cluster of walls, but the walls being rounded is actually really bad sometimes for our damage. The reason being is it is important that you hit all the walls simultaneously. So if the walls are somewhat like parallel to you as you're hitting them, or rounded per se, what's going to happen is you're going to hit like some of these guys first, but then these guys are going to blow up. Since you're traveling with the Gathering Storm, these guys are going to blow up the walls behind them before you can even hit them to create more shockwaves. So you're going to get less shockwaves if your walls are formed somewhat like this rather than like this. So just some important things to know when you're using this combo. So the first tech is relatively straightforward. You just have Effigy of Cruelty on your second weapon set, and you have Frostwall bound to your second weapon set. This just makes it so that when you place the Frostwall over the enemy, it will apply critical weakness, and with like fully stacked critical weakness and high crit chance, you will probably have like nearly or 100% crit chance on the boss, which is a ton of damage. The second tech, which I kind of like hinted at earlier, is to use Ambrosia. When I said this is more damage, I meant this is a lot of more damage. It takes Ambrosia takes 20% of your Mana Flask charges to give you 3% of lightning damage as extra damage per charge consumed. So for a high charge Mana Flask like this one, 126, you'll take 25 charges, and get like 3% for each, so 75% damage as extra lightning damage for your Gathering Storm, which is insane. If you can get 2 of these flasks, then you actually will get 150% damage as extra lightning damage, which is just absurd. The way you can do this is to use the Wastegate Heavy Belt, which lets you equip Life or Mana Flask on either slot. You take this, you equip your second flask, and you can actually either keep this belt or you can take it off and use a regular belt. And you won't be able to use your Mana Flask, but Ambrosia will use the Mana Flask whenever it needs to. Like see here, it used charges from both mana flasks, and I've already tested the damage. It does actually does deal extra lightning damage with this slot. This is probably a bug. Alright, I think this is a bug. So if this gets patched out, you can just keep using this belt and then fix your stats across your other gear, or you can just not use this deck with the double flask. The next major tech in this to really bump up our damage is to now use Trinity. A quick summary of Trinity. Trinity has 3 meters, which are resonance for each element. When you hit an enemy, the element you did the most damage with in that attack will add a decent chunk of resonance to that element's meter while deducting a little bit from the other 2. If you were to be a single element build, like lightning spear, you would get like 21% more damage from this, but if you can somehow max out all 3 meters, you can get 63% more damage. To get max resonance on all 3, I'm introducing my new tech called the Trinity Battery. The way to max out all meters efficiently is to have a single attack do roughly equal parts all 3 elemental damage types and do that damage frequently. The way I went about that is to set up my Stormlance such that the large spears do roughly equal parts tri-elemental damage, and then chuck it at some frost walls with chain and scatter shot. That's right, you can put Trinity off of frost walls as well. You may be thinking getting a spear such that you do tri damage is actually super annoying to get, barring using the Painter's Servant gloves, which gives you like balanced damage. But it's actually not that bad if you think of it like this. You only have to balance lightning and cold damage. And once you have these balanced, you just chuck on a fire infusion and that's it. Call it a day. Because your 100 damage that you get from, let's say, your 50-50 of each becomes 25% extra as fire. And then because fire infusion halves the other elements, we would get like 25 lightning and then like 25 cold. And it just works itself out really nicely. Practically, what I have for that to work is 2 rings that give me some cold damage to attacks, and then a spear with some cold damage already on it, and 2 sockets so that I can fine-tune the amount of cold to lightning damage I want on this spear. And then of course I chuck on the fire infusion, and then we get our equal parts tri damage. Practically speaking, for most of the time, you are just going to like run into a boss room, or before the Xesht fight, you just chuck this down in advance, and then you just do your normal combo right afterwards with the Frost Wall, Infernal Cry, Gathering Storm. It's like setup, but not really, because you just do this on the side. You don't have to like skillfully do this or anything. The last tech, I guess, is to get as much shock as you can onto the boss. Now, I don't want to use my main weapon set for this because I want to get as much damage as possible and with some survivability on that main weapon set, so I'm going to use my second weapon set to get as much shock magnitude as possible using like some of these nodes on the tree. The question is, how do we get shock if we do so little damage with the spear? The answer is to use Thunderous Leap with Shocking Leap. So if I leap onto an enemy and crit them, it will create shocked ground underneath them. So we don't have to do significant damage, just any kind of critical hit with this leap. And then we just tack on as much shock magnitude as possible. We tack on Overcharge and all these shock mag nodes here and here. I will say though, if you do this you should probably run a shock charm, because you definitely don't want to be caught with 80% shock on yourself when doing a boss. Because if you mess up, you're just gonna like explode, die. And secondly, how we get our guaranteed crit is we need to also have a high crit chance spear and run ambush, which lets us like gives us basically guaranteed crit with. Yeah, we got 58% crit chance here, so with ambush we are basically guaranteed crit when we hit the boss right away with it. So that's, and then we tack on will take mark at the end and get an additional increased effect of shock on them. So that's how you get like a lot of shock without investing into like your main tree. You just use the second tree, spear, thunderous leaf, take mark, and you get like tons of extra damage. Okay, so like what does this actually look like in like the Xesht confrontation? So first we just throw down some frost walls to build rage from our font of rage, and then after a little bit we chuck down the Trinity battery right before he is ready. Then we hit him with the thunderous leaf, get that shock, put on the mark, frost wall, war cry, and then yeah, boom, dead. Simple as that. You might mess up a few times at first, but that's basically how you do it. Now you may have noticed I didn't say anything about my ascendancy, which is Acolyte of Chayula, and that's because for this nature of bossing, where we just one-shot the boss, hardly anything from Chayula actually does anything meaningful. So for example, the leech here is irrelevant because we one-shot him. The leech here irrelevant, we one-shot him. We don't talk about this. And then the damage here is like it is some extra damage sometimes, but I've tried one-shotting him without this equipped, and you don't need this really. This is like some damage occasionally that doesn't really help us too much. The only thing that you get from going Acolyte is being able to do Monk Start. This is just like one of the most insane starting areas on the passive tree, so you get that. But yeah, the point I'm trying to make here is that for the one-shot combo, it's all about the items and skill gems. The ascendancy has like very little to do with it. For example, if you were like Invoker, well, you get Beacon of Aziz for free, so you can get a good amulet that gives you like plus level melee skills, crit chance, whatever. I don't know what this does, but it's probably a lot of damage. Yeah, I mean gain damage. I don't know what that does, but it's also probably damage. Oh yeah, free spirit. I almost forgot. So yeah, I mean, what else here? Oh, blood mage. They get like, I don't know. They get some crit damage bonus. Pretty nice. Oh, they can ignore armor too. That's pretty cool. But I don't think that's relevant here, to be honest. What about Infernalis? What the hell? 50% more. Okay, yeah, they have crit damage. Stormweaver can probably do something with their double shock. Huntress. I'm sure you can make something, but like, anyways, the point is you can do this with any class, really. If you're doing it from like one of these classes over here, you might have to make your tree look a little different. I'm not sure what you would do in that case, but in general, the ascendancy itself is kind of irrelevant to the one shot. So now I'm going to talk about Acolyte and what he actually does for this build in the form of clearing and defense. So after why I picked this class in the first place, when I saw the changes to Ravenous Doubts, I thought this class was going to be insane. You know, they can infinitely sustain the resource to do all their damage. And on top of that, they can infinitely sustain their life as well. I realized way later that this is just warrior with extra steps, but this is still pretty good regardless. Being able to leech off of all damage types is really insane. The problem is this node was designed to work with the old version of leech on this class, not the way it works now. If I'm at 100, I'm at like 900 mana, and I do a hit for like 10,000 damage, and I would have leeched like 1,000 of that, I'm only gonna leech 100 of that, because the moment my mana is full, leech stops working. Leech is stopped the second your resource is full. So I'll only leech like a tiny bit of ES every time I leech mana. There's like 4 ways I know how to get around this. So one is to use these gloves. Leech is instant, which is actually what this used to do. This used to be mana leech is instant. So when you have instant leech, you will get, it doesn't matter, even if you have like 1 mana left, you will just get the full amount in ES every single time. So having like this mana leech node with for all types with the instant leech gives you just absolutely bonkers amount of ES leech in mapping. The second way is to, yeah, I mean it's instant leech but at 1/5 of the potency, so you can anoint or megalomaniac this and then equip some other gloves. The third way I know of to get around this node is to get these gloves, which make it set it so that it's impossible to ever actually be full mana. You have a corrupted version where you're full mana when you're 100 and something % of mana. So you'll never be full mana, which means your leech effects never stop, which means you can leech your ES properly. And then like the last way for this leech node to work is to just spend enough mana that you're always leeching it. I'm sure there's a way to do this, but I'm not focused on that for this build. For this build, I'm focused on instant leech from these gloves with insane amounts of leeching from all types of damage. So for our entire clear, it's basically just Herald of Thunder and Cast on Freeze. So the basic principle behind this is Herald skills can generate meta energy for skills like Cast on Freeze, Cast on Ignite, Cast on Crit, whatever. So for our case, Herald of Thunder is doing a lot of cold damage thanks to the cold damage from our rings, and also some gain as cold damage with some extra freeze buildup. So this will pretty consistently trigger the Cast on Freeze Voltaic Mark. And Voltaic Mark is an attack. One of the only few attacks you can socket into the meta skills. So when this is placed on an enemy and that enemy dies, they will erupt into a nova will erupt, doing lightning damage, most likely shocking most of the enemies and also killing a bunch of them. And when that happens, it will trigger Herald of Thunder into like this kind of infinite loop that kind of just screen clears. The only thing you have to be concerned about when you make this kind of setup is how to sustain the mana for Voltaic Mark. You're proccing like several of these per second, so you're gonna need to sustain somehow. Luckily for us, Chayula monks, we have mana leech from all types of damage, so this will actually pay for itself and more. We have the leech from our rings here to give us that leech, but you can also get leech on your quarterstaff or your gloves, but in my case I'm using these gloves for their instant leech effect. And yeah, I mean, that's, if you invest a little bit into your AoE here with these 2 support gems, and then some AoE on the tree down here, then that Megalomaniac I mentioned earlier, you can get like just absolutely ridiculous screen clears with the setup. Every time you hit a storm wave, 2 screens explode and all of your ES is instantly recovered. It's like 10k ES recovered. One thing to note though, or 2 things to note to further optimize this. You want to try to hit 150% energy gain modifier on your cast on freeze. What this means is instead of you're getting with 150% energy gain, you're getting 2.5x the energy, and that means that voltaic mark that requires 50 energy to trigger, and getting 10 energy per enemy you freeze, you will actually get half the requirement of voltaic mark per freeze. So 25 energy per freeze, so you only need to hit 2 freezes to get a mark, which will just 2 rather than 3 is actually an insane increase to clearing. And additionally, you want to run overabundance, because oftentimes you will make so much energy you can apply 2 of these at once, and this will just further improve your clearing ability. Another thing, if you really want to, you can crank the screen clear up from like a 10 to an 11 if you equip a Collapsing Horizon quarterstaff. You only care about the last line, which is the default for all of these. The extra crit chance and element skills is nice, but yeah, getting half your energy back means instead of proccing the mark every 2 freezes, it's now every single enemy you freeze will take mark. And then on top of that, if you want more clear, you can get a Struggle Scream, which is these are pretty cheap, and allocate 3 AoE nodes onto it. So you have like this insane amount of novas popping off for an entire screen per nova. It's just, yeah, I mean, you're already screen clearing without this, but if you want to just see like a huge bang, you can do this as well, and it's actually really cheap to get these 2 things. I guess it's time. I guess for going to the showcase, the mapping showcase, I should go over the items and skill tree real fast. So the most important things again on the items are like quarterstaff, instant leech gloves, beacon, and for our rings we just need to have cold damage to attacks and some mana leech. Other than that, for this particular build, I'm going for as much ES as I can get and res cap, and nothing too special here. As for the tree itself, it's just 2 things, just ES and crit. Crit here, crit here, crit. This is just insane. Crit, crit, and then yeah, ES, ES, ES. Some move speed, it's nice. Oh, you might have, something may have stuck out to you. Yeah, this 8% for mana energy here, that's literally just to get my cast and freeze energy to hit 150. That's literally why this is like this. Then CI, and then as for the jewels, they're all unique jewels. So this is kind of the premium item. With a 12 spirit or 10 to 12 spirit against the darkness, you can equip your cast and freeze herald and Trinity, because you have some extra spirit from your beacon, but without it you don't really need the 3D for mapping, and then for bossing, you just turn this on and these two things off. So this one, yeah, 3 levels to Gathering Storm. Self-explanatory. I think it's 1 divine. Nobody uses the skill, so it's cheap. But yeah, so this one, I got this for the AoE here, but as a really nice bonus, I got Shearing Mirage, which gives me some ailment threshold, but if I didn't have that, I would, it's just 2 points, no big deal. Sacrifice a little bit of ES or damage for it. But yeah, this is mostly here just for the AoE you get. And then the From Nothing Diamond. So Iron Reflexes is this one. And I'm just grabbing this so I can grab the AoE nodes here. And then Polymorphy is pretty nice because you are quite attribute starved on this build. You need 205 dex int, and you also need like 53 strength, so having some extra stats is really, really handy. Yeah, nothing. So the only interesting stuff on the tree is the jewels, but other than that, it's just ES and damage, crit damage.
Okay, so for the end of this video, I'm just gonna do a mapping showcase for a map that has a boss. So yeah, this is our map. We're gonna let's just do this one. Val Factory. Well, I love Val Factory. Such a good map. So I'm just gonna show you how mapping kind of goes with. It did some commentary over it. So we're just gonna beeline the boss, which is like straight down the middle of this. Oh, I guess I should have mentioned this. Yeah, the voltaic mark can actually be applied through walls. So maps like Val Factory and Augury are actually pretty good for us. We can just like, what is it called? We can like hit enemies through walls because the chains will just, yeah, go behind them. We can do all these things later. I just want to get to the boss. Oh yeah, they buffed that. Okay, here's the boss. So we're gonna do our little setup in the corner. He's still waking up. Oh, what the hell? How'd you get here? Yeah, I mean, that's all you really need to do the boss. I mean, he has like 100% more life, but it didn't really matter. Let's go find the breach, wherever that is on this map. Well, maybe I should collect some of these. Maybe these would be good. Armor is useless. Alright, let's go find the breach. I'll have to show that one off as well. Ooh. Oh, I'd almost crashed my computer. That's pretty bad. Where's the breach? Oh, screen clear. ES. Screen clear. To be honest, the ES stage is not relevant a lot of times because you're just one-shotting multiple screens through the walls. So, yeah. Oh, we should go with there. Go with there. Oh, there's the breach. Alright, breach showcase. Yeah, I mean, let's get some splinters. Oh. Nice. yeah, it's just... Yeah, I mean, you get the point. This build's pretty OP in mapping. Once you get it online, you have so much ES, you leech it all back, you one-shot enemies through walls, you one-shot bosses. You're just not as fast as that one meta hunter build with the Chocobo